book dedications hard or easy? Hint, they're not easy. If you've written more than one book or you're a prolific writer, you may struggle to figure out who to dedicate your book to, but we have to keep in mind dedications don't necessarily have to be to one specific person. So let's talk about what a dedication actually is. A dedication is at the start of a book. It's usually 1 to 2 sentences long, and it then dedicates that book to a person or to a group of people or to an audience. Sometimes it's a conversation directly with the reader, and sometimes it's something funny that we like to put in there. Now keep in mind, you do need to be keeping your dedication professional. A traditional publisher will rein you back in if you go off the deep end on this one. So you want to make sure that it is something that's going to get people's attention, because most people will skip over this, but if their eyes catch on to something, they will check out that 1 to 2 sentences. Now you can dedicate it to one specific person. You can name them, you can say why you're dedicating it to them or not, or you can dedicate it to a group of people. If you take a look at my stories, I typically dedicate it to subsections of my audience. So this book is for this type of person, or it's dedicated to this group of underrepresented people, or it's dedicated to somebody connected to the characters in the story, or maybe it's dedicated to people that have helped me along the way. My books typically are not dedicated to a single person because I like to make it for my audience, because I write for my audience and I write those specific characters and specific things in the story for specific readers. So I always want to make sure that I'm acknowledging them in my dedications, but you can do this however you want. You can treat it like a funny statement. You can make a statement with it. You can talk directly to your reader and let them know you hope that they enjoy your story. You can do whatever you want, because the dedication really is just a space for the author to be able to say one thing that they want to say. Now remember, you get more space in your acknowledgments at the end of the story, but this is the beginning of your story. This is preface. This is to set it up. This is, I have done all of this work, and here is the one thing I want to say to you before you get into reading the story. So you can decide if you want to dedicate your book to a person, to a group of people, if you want to address your reader, or if you want to say something funny to draw attention to it before they dive into your story. But keep in mind, it has to be short and sweet and to the point. 1, maybe 2 sentences, but it needs to be very, very small at the very beginning of your story. And you do not have to have a dedication if you do not want one. Now, traditionally, we typically expect a dedication. It's something we've kind of done for years and years and years, but you can buck the system. You don't have to do the same thing everyone else has done. So if you want a dedication, go for it. And if you do not want a dedication, that's okay too. You don't have to have it just because the rest of us do. Now, dedications are a lot of fun if you have the ability to kind of have a little bit of fun with it. So for me, I frequently struggle to figure out who and what I'm going to dedicate my books to. So I will turn to the story. I'll look at what themes come up. I'll look at what audience I'm speaking or representing inside of my story. I'll look for people with character traits, and I typically go toward character traits with my dedications, and I will dedicate it to those people. So to the people who have been through this kind of thing, and to the people who are positive despite going through this kind of thing. I look for those innate qualities inside of us, the internal things, rather than, to the redheads or to the blondes. I dedicate things to personality traits rather than the physical descriptors. You can do whatever you want. Dedications are at the beginning of those books, and I usually write them after the book is written. In fact, for the most part, you're going to write anything outside of the manuscript well after the book has been created, and these are not things you need to turn in if you are querying your stories. Those are things that you add in later on. So do not send things like dedications and acknowledgments in with a query letter. Those are for after the fact, and not something you have to think about until the book is preparing to be published. If you have ideas on what you would do for a dedication in your upcoming book or in your someday book, go ahead and let me know down below, and if you've got questions on this, I'd love to get those answered for you. We're breaking down all things that go into publishing, tips and tricks on writing, and how books are actually created, so drop your questions below, and I'll see you in the next episode.